Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 2022. Hello, Long Island. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? We're finally back. I'm back from a long trip in the woods. I see a good morning out there on YouTube. A little spelling error there. I know the O is next to the I key on the keyboard, but good morning to everybody. And welcome to 2022. I mean, we're finally here. We've been talking about 2022 for so long, and we're finally here. And so welcome one, welcome all. It looks like, and I don't know why this is happening, but it looks like the only comments that I am seeing on our chat right now are YouTube comments. So for those of you watching on Facebook, I see some Facebook coming through now. All right, good. So we should be able to get some of that rocking and rolling. But good morning and welcome to 2022, everybody. I'm very happy to see you guys here. I'm very happy to be back and ready to kick butt this year because it is it's midterm year. It's midterm year. It's finally time to take it all back. And I think something that we've been talking about for a long time has been the midterms and the red wave, and we did really well, in Suffolk and Nassau in the local elections. So now it's time to transition that to a national red wave, and it's also time to transition that here in New York to a statewide red wave, where we can elect Governor Lee Zeldin. Potentially Governor Lee Zeldin. But we've got a long time before we can do that and before we actually confidently know. I mean, I'm confident that Lee Zeldin is going to be the nominee. But until we confidently and it's actually confirmed that Lee Zeldin is the nominee, the Republican nominee for governor, we won't know. So we have school boards, and it's going to be time for us to start meeting with different parents and people from different school districts with regards to who wants to run for school board, right? What they stand for, what they would do, and so it's time we're going to start vetting some school board candidates. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to start building momentum into the early months, right? Into the March, into the April, into the May. Okay? So I'm kind of giving you a look into our philosophy right now. There are a couple of other fronts that us as a group, Loud Majority, plan on embarking on. We have CPAC coming up in February. And I would love, I would love it if a lot of people from Long Island had found their arrangements and made arrangements to come attend CPAC. We could take the place over. So, when we get some details, we'll let you know exactly what it is that we want to do. So we are getting ready for that. You have the January 5th protest this week in Albany. And, I know I was kind of not too happy, or not that I wasn't too happy. I know I was kind of lukewarm about the idea of doing a protest at a Capitol building on January 5th. But it has to be done. I won't be there, but there will be representation. I think Kevin's going to be there at the January 5th protest over in Albany. And again, just to reiterate, and not to say that we're out of the woods with this issue, but Assembly Bill A416 is no longer up for a vote. That's that governor can put you in prison or in a quarantine facility if you're such and such, whatever. You sneeze 3 times, didn't say God bless you. There's a little thing running down the nose there. It's a problem, right? We don't want to get thrown in jail for having a little cough, right? Kathy Hochul, we're going to talk about her in a second. So we got CPAC in February. Us as a group, we had some fun towards the end of the year. Arizona, it was a good time. We do want to get some local rallies going again. It's supposed to snow today. I'm excited. It's supposed to snow. We're supposed to get some accumulating snow today, 1 to 3 inches. We'll see about that. I don't know how much of it's going to stick. We'll see about that. But we're looking at more fun leading into the spring. Who wants to rally again? I mean, I think we need to rally again. I think we may need to throw a couple bangers down at Belmore. I think we may need to We may need to pick a day between now and when it gets warmer out and brave the cold a little bit. Marek says he's ready to. Marek says he's ready to pick weeds. Yeah, because in Montauk we got that guy came over. Oh, you can't have the T-shirts. He goes, "I'll go pick some weeds." Taking care of the park. He came over to the people who solved the bomb threat. Remember that? Oh man, that's great. Pick some weeds. Go pick some weeds. Good morning, April. Good morning to Jen Roman. I saw Jen Roman popping up on YouTube. Apparently, you are not allowed on Facebook. Yeah, so the Assembly Bill A416 is no longer on the bill, but A8378 is there. That's the vaccine bill. And so we want to make sure that we push hard against that. So for those of you going to the January 5th protest up in Albany, let's remember that it is one day before the anniversary of January 6th, the fake insurrection. And we want to make sure that, you just surround yourself with people that you trust. Okay? You may get someone who pops up next to you. You don't know who the hell they are. That's okay. You could talk to them, but, don't confide in anybody that you don't, know going there. That's all I'm saying. You don't know who these people are. And there's always with the threat. I mean, I think there's going to be 3,000 to 5,000 people at Albany. It's going to be great. Anybody who can go should go. Okay? It's going to be huge, huge. Okay, we're talking about it's going to be so. I haven't done this in a while. It's going to be huge, okay? Albany, January 5th is going to be a fantastic thing. We have to go. People have to go. Big, beautiful people have to go. Stay warm. Stay safe, okay? Did you see Arby's? But yes, if you're going, please remember to stay safe. And please remember to, I'm not saying that there's going to be a setup or false flags, but just be alert is all I'm saying. That's it. Be alert. I want to welcome. Tatiana Ibrahim is in the chat. Awesome. She's if you guys don't know Tatiana, she's from Carmel School District, and was one of the first people to get up and start raising questions. If I could put it nicely, raising questions. No, she went right at her school board. You could look it up. It's on Rumble. I'm not sure if these things are on YouTube anymore, but I know they're definitely on Rumble. But Tatiana Ibrahim, one of the first ones to get going, get that school board thing going. And I'll tell you, I think I told her this on the phone when I talked to her about a month ago, but maybe not. But there's a point in time at the end of that clip, she just tells the whole school. First of all, because the school board isn't paid, so they're snarky. So she's like, "We pay you." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're not paid." And she's like, the seats you're sitting in, we pay for. The lights that are on, we pay. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. You don't want to mess with her, right? And then she says at the end something like, you're exposed now. That's all. Walked away. What a warrior. What a savage. So it's good to know that there are people in the state like Tatiana who are out there. It's not just us on Long Island. It's not just, a red upstate New York and a disaster downstate, right? There are a lot of patriots across New York State that can come together. And that is the goal between now, right? So here's back to our philosophy, our timeline, because I got a little funny, got a little sidetracked. Let's figure out how we can make this work, right? So we saw in Virginia, we saw what happened with education. Education became a huge issue in Loudoun County. Loudoun County broke for the Democrat candidate, but not by as much as it normally did, and that essentially turned the entire race in Virginia. There were other functions, there were other issues, there were other factors for sure. Right? There were other factors, there were other issues, there were other things that came to light in Virginia that influenced that race. The fact that the Brandon administration agrees with Let's Go Brandon, by the way. How about Sleepy Joe agreeing with Let's Go Brandon? Let's go Brandon, I agree. What a stupid person. What a stupid person when you think about it. But when you think about a couple of these Afghanistan. You had CRT, you have inflation, the virus getting out of control, ridiculous mandates all over the place, right? All played a role in Virginia, but education really took it to the next level, and that's why that race flipped, and that's why I think a state like New Jersey didn't flip, okay? So, and I know we could talk about phony ballots, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that, a little bit of that, sorry. I had to brush the rust off, spending all that time in the woods. I forgot how to sit behind the microphone. Could you believe that? So we're going to talk a lot about there's results from Texas that are interesting. They did an audit in Texas. So let's see what they said. I have an article about that. We're going to attach that in the show notes. Loudmajorityus.com. Loudmajorityus.com. That's the website you go to. Sign up for the show notes. Sign up for the newsletter. You go to the bottom of the first site, the homepage. You throw your email in there. Phone number if you want, but definitely email. We send out the emails every time we do a show. There's an email with all the articles in there and everything so that when you listen to it later on, I know we have great people, all these beautiful, fantastic, highly respected people that are in the chat right now. Beautiful, fantastic, highly respected, fantastic. Okay? So all these people that are in the chat now, you guys are watching it live, and I love you guys, right? We have a second wave, let's say, of people who go in and listen to this later through podcasts, right? So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We have the folks who watch it later on YouTube, folks who watch it later on Twitter, folks who watch it later on Facebook, right? And so those of you who watch it later, and then I'm not saying not to watch it live. You guys are in a live stream. You'll get the email. You could listen to it again. You could look at the articles, whatever, and remember what we talked about, okay? My main goal is to get information out. The right information out. And that means I may not jump on a story right away because I want to make sure it's legitimate and not be like CNN, right? So our goal here, you sign up for the newsletter, you'll never miss a thing. That's first. LoudMajorityUS.com. You could also head over to the shop there. We got the coolest Let's Go Brandon shirts in the country. I don't care what anybody says. They're sharp. Everyone loves it. We were upstate wearing them around. People were screaming across Walmart parking lots, F Joe Biden, Let's Go Brandon. It was a great time. Right? So we got the best shirts there. So go grab those. LoudMajorityUS.com. What did I say? Look at this. Oh, it's not the right view. I knocked the camera off, so it didn't work out too well. Sorry. LoudMajorityUS.com. Okay? We're not allowed to post that link on Facebook. So if you are watching on Facebook, you can go and do everything you want to do through that Etsy link at the top of the page. Okay? Our goal, we move through now. We are in January now. It's official. First year 2022, first month, we're ready to start moving forward. How do we do in New York what they did in Virginia? How do we do in New York what they did in Virginia? First, we have a sip of coffee. That's the first thing we're going to do right here. Okay, kofifi. When you look at it, it's kofifi. That's what I was talking about, a kofifi. Okay, yeah, the word that he was trying to tweet was coverage, I believe. Despite the negative press coverage, he wrote kofifi instead. It's great. So in New York, we have January. Maybe we'll do a rally at some point in time. We'll look and see if it's going to get a little warmer. We'll throw a rally somewhere, or maybe we'll just brave the cold, right? We'll brave the cold, and we'll make a little fire, something, and we'll make it happen. Okay, we're moving into February now. February is CPAC, but we have to start getting with school board candidates and start shoring up who's running in every district. I don't want this process, and this is what I'm afraid of. I don't want this process to cause a problem if we determine potentially that, there's three seats up and 4 people want to run. And, are we going to have to hold runoff elections, or can we have this figured out in district? I would rather not be the moderator in that case. I don't want to make decisions on behalf of other districts, right, where you have 4 people running for 3 seats. That's got to be something that I think our teams in our districts here are going to have to work out themselves. And there are other groups that are doing this as well. Save Our Schools, I'm sure, is going to wind up being involved in the process here, getting school board candidates up across the island. But we have to work together on this. Okay, there's got to be a very, and I would like to put forth a comprehensive plan and a schedule together where each district can meet and we can get our candidates in and ready to go by middle February. Okay. But I think we got to get information even earlier than that. So let's start thinking about that. If you're in a district and you want to make waves with your school board, get candidates together, get involved in your schools. And remember, it's not politics. Okay? So if you don't want to get involved in politics, don't. We want to take politics out of the schools. There's some things in I think there was in Tennessee, I was talking to someone from Turning Point USA, and he was great. He's a shark. He's going to be a senator one day. But he was telling me that in Tennessee, in some districts, they've made their school board races partisan, in that a party will back candidates. I think that's a little overboard. I don't want politics in the schools, but the objective obviously is to take back the schools. Anyway, what we want to do here is we want to make sure that if you don't want to get involved in politics, you go ahead and get involved in education and your school boards. Just make sure they're doing everything the right way down the middle, right in your school. But we're going to need those candidates to be figured out by the districts, and we'll meet with them. We can meet with them in our studio. We can meet with them at a place that you're choosing in your district, whatever it is, right? But we want to start getting that together. Why? Because when we hit March, when we hit April, remember last year it was April 11th, April 12th, something like that, where we first started talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was April where we were approached by parents in Smithtown and say, hey, we got to do something about this school board race. And we got involved there and realized that it was not just a Smithtown issue, but a national issue. Okay, a statewide issue, a nationwide issue, et cetera, et cetera. We got involved in April, and the PBA got involved in April, and we did what we had to do there and won those 3 races. We want to do that on a large scale now, but we're going to need coordination. We're going to need people to work together. So at the end of this show, please, if you're in a district or whatnot, start getting some teams together, and then get in communication with us and let us know when you guys want to meet. And then we'll have to make the time. We'll get some meetings together, right? And figure out, who's running for what seats and what school districts. We have a plan, and we want to start to implement that going forward. We can build momentum now for school boards. We can start doing the early work, and then we could push forward. We're getting into February. We're getting into March. We get through CPAC. We're now into March, right? March, it starts getting a little warmer out. We're getting closer to May. It's 2 months away. And so we could start doing some campaigning. We could start doing some talking, some chatting. April is when it's going to get crazy. First 2 weeks of May, obviously, is when it's rush time, crazy time, wild time. So you have now the May school board elections, which is great. The May school board elections are on May 19th this year, I believe. May 19th. And we go, we vote, and we do what we've got to do in May. If we win those, when we win those, that's the plan. When we win those, we take that momentum and we roll it towards the June 28th, I believe, primary for Congress, for the governor nomination, Republican primaries. Now, you have to be a registered Republican to vote in a Republican primary in the state of New York. One more time. You have to be a registered Republican, not just registered to vote. You have to be a registered Republican to vote in the Republican primary in the state of New York. There are some states where you can be an independent and choose what primary you want to vote in. This one, in New York, if you're an independent, you didn't declare a party, you cannot vote in the primary. You cannot vote in the primary. Okay? If you're a registered Republican, you can vote only in the Republican primary. Registered Democrat, you can vote in the Democrat primary. Okay? So it's very important to know your voter registration. Are you registered to vote? I would assume you are. Are you a registered Republican? If you don't want to register as a Republican, that's fine. You just can't vote in the primary. You can still vote in the general for Lee Zeldin and whoever's running for Congress at that point in time, whoever your nominees are. Right? But you can't vote in primaries. Primaries are very important. That's where you pick your nominee. Even a registered, this is what Jackie DiLorenzo was saying, even a registered conservative may not vote in the Republican primary. They're different parties. Okay? So if you're a registered conservative and you want to stay that, that's fine. You just can't vote in the Republican primary. All right? If you're not registered to vote and you're watching this video, you got to get registered now. All right? And if you are interested in voting in a Republican or Democrat primary, then you have to vote for register as one of those two parties in New York. We have the primaries in 2022 coming. June 28th, I believe, is the date. You're going to have primaries all over the place. I know that there's a lot of chatter. There are a lot of people running for a lot of seats. I don't want to get into that right now. I could just tell you that there are quality candidates across the board and primaries that are going to be happening everywhere. And if that makes people upset, then you need to find better candidates. I'm sorry. You don't like primaries? Don't give us a reason to primary people. How about that? Or is that too complicated? Oh, man. It would really help if we didn't have a primary. It's a big waste of money. I agree. But there would be no reason to waste money if the candidate was worth half a damn. Yes, I'm talking about Andrew Garbarino. Whoops. Big secret's out. There are people primarying him from all over the place. So let's, you gave me, but if you give me a better candidate who's not voting for infrastructure bills, there's probably no reason to primary the guy, right? Why wouldn't, you think if Lee Zeldin was staying in District 1 out there, not running for governor, you think he'd be facing a primary? I don't think so, because he's a good candidate. The reason why Garbage Garbarino is facing a primary, and they don't believe in the grassroots. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. We'll see what happens in June, bud. Anyway, that's what happens in June. We can use the momentum from the school boards to keep our base and our people engaged, right, into June. Now, from June, after the primaries, after that's all settled, we have 5 months, not even, around 4.5 months before we go in there and we vote for governor. It is going to take, I can't say this seriously enough. And then we're going to get to some news stuff, right? But I just want to give you the goal and the plan thus far. It is going to take from June to November. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, in some cases, it may not be fun. In some cases, you may not enjoy it. We are going to need all hands on deck. All hands on deck after June, but really from now onwards. But, weather gets nicer. We're going to need, folks, we're going to need to be deploying teams across the state. I'm not concerned with Long Island and turnouts for the governor's election. Of course, we want a good turnout down here. But we may have to start taking people, groups, and rallying upstate and in other counties and having these rallies, right? You have these rallies. You bring the people together. And then we all take we take these walk-in papers. We hit EDs up in upstate New York for a day. And we knock on doors. We're from Long Island. Lee Zeldin's from Long Island. We'll go up there on behalf of them, not tied to the campaign at all, but because we believe in this. And represent our guy. Because, there's friction between upstate and downstate, right? You downstaters are all the same, and they think we're all liberals, and it's like, no. There's a lot of people down here, and they also have houses. But, like, upstate and Long Island, the conservatives here and the conservatives there are very, very similar, strong, patriotic people. And we got to get up there and start forging those connections, okay, upstate. We got to get up there. We got to hit Carmel. Tatiana's listening. We got to hit Carmel. We got to hit Otsego County. I got some boys up there who would love to rally a little bit. Sullivan County. Some folks over in Monticello. Erie County. Yeah, go to Western New York. Why not? Hit the Albany district, right? Capital district. We've got to get up and down this state from June to November. And the significance of putting people boots on the ground. Ask Dominic Thorne. Ask Vicky Palladino, District 19, New York City. Dom Thorne, District 7, Suffolk County. How important it was to be walking those districts every day. How important it was to have people on the ground, knocking doors, boots on the ground, calls being made. Right? So we are going to have to really go into overdrive, and it's going to suck, guys, and we're going to be at each other's throats. We're going to be yelling at each other. It's going to be tough times. It's going to suck. There's going to be a lot of travel. We're not going to be sleeping. I'm not saying all of you, but I'm saying I fully plan on having a very rough go with this, but I plan on winning. Okay? It's not going to be easy, but wow. Could you imagine on Election Day? Could you imagine on Election Day or the day after, whatever, where we elect a Republican governor and it's Lee Zeldin, it's not Pataki, it's not some slumpy, washed up guy? Could you imagine how that would feel, folks? What that would do for this state? Now, the most empowering thing I could tell you before we move on to some other stories is that is fully within our control, right? I don't want anybody to say, oh, it's a blue state, it's going to be tough. How about we take this mindset? How about we take this mindset that this is our race to lose? This is our race to lose. I believe we're already ahead. I don't have any data. I don't have any polling. I don't have any numbers to support that claim. But I believe that this is our race to lose. When you have a governor now, and I think the first crack in the armor, okay, with this governor, I think the first crack in the armor was when she did Mask Mandate 2.0 and 3/4 of the state decided they weren't playing anymore. Counties are not enforcing it. People are not listening. Now, I do see a lot of people masked up right now, and it is sad. I don't do it. I don't do it. On an airplane, a little different, right? Whatever. But I don't do the mask in a supermarket. There's no reason to. First of all, I ain't getting that close to people in a supermarket, trust me. Number two, this whole thing, everyone's going to get sick. All right? But you look at the governor, and 3/4 of the state, or 2/3 of the state, whatever it was, the majority of the state, the counties in the state, not enforcing the mask mandate. People still wearing the mask regardless, but that's not what I'm talking about. There's a little bit of people, there's a few people in this state now who are starting to get tired of Kathy Hochul. Now she's doubling down again. Did you hear what she just did? Did you hear what Kathy Hochul just decided she was going to do? And Chris Cicerelli in the chat here, shout out, love you, Chris, is right. There isn't even a mandate this go around. This is a determination from the health commissioner. So, hold on. There are laws in this country, laws. We have to follow those because they're laws. Then there are mandates, which are only laws if we treat them like laws. Get it? So you got laws, we have to follow them. We got mandates, which are only laws if we treat them like laws. Now we have determinations. And we're following those. Why? Because they do this public health emergency. Remember, now, I think I said this in October. I think it was October. Maybe it was November. Then eventually they were going to take this whole idea of emergency powers, which should be abolished. But eventually they were going to take this emergency powers crap and they were going to use it for things that weren't actual emergencies, right? So you had COVID. Let's go ahead, and I'm not saying this is my position. I'm going to say hypothetically, so we can put aside any biases. Let's go ahead and say that every politician who did 15 days to slow the spread, lockdowns, mask requirements, social distancing, curfews, etc. Let's say they were all practicing in good faith. They were all acting in good faith, and they did that because they literally thought this was a deadly virus and a public health emergency. Okay. We know that's not the case, but okay. Right? It didn't work. How do we know it didn't work? Because today, January 3rd, 2022, is day 657 of 15 days to slow the spread. If mandates and masks and lockdowns and vaccines and all this other crap worked, why are we still doing it? If it worked, and it was only supposed to be 2 weeks, and then 45 days, and then however many, if that worked, why didn't it work? Right? This is Dan Bongino, says this all the time. He quotes the movie Moneyball. If he's a good hitter, how come he doesn't hit good? Right? If masks work, if mandates work, if the vaccines work, if all of these things work, why don't they work? If all of these things work, why aren't they working? Cases are going up. I thought they were supposed to go down. Remember, flatten the curve, right? Instead, we're just growing the spike. So if these practices worked, we wouldn't be here. We would be out of the pandemic because that was the remedy. That was the mitigation, right? So if they work, why don't they work? Nobody wants to ask that question. Nobody wants to ask that question at all. If they work, why don't they work? They don't work. They don't work. These mandates don't work. The lockdowns don't work. The tyranny doesn't work. The free speech. Doctors are shocked. that so many people who are vaccinated are getting sick. That's because in every mainstream outlet, whether it's the mainstream media, whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, anywhere, Instagram, if you implied that the vaccine may not be as effective as it was, implied, not even said it was, but if you made the implication that that was the case, you were shut down. Shut down. So there was no diversity of thought. So all these doctors and physicians, they're hearing science. That's misinformation. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I went through science class, 4th grade, 5th grade, with the science fair. There's like a scientific method, and you're supposed to test hypothesis, right? You're supposed to test a theory. You have a theory, you have an idea, you test it. You don't just have a theory and decide the theory is the way it is. That's what a conspiracy theorist actually does. Yeah, they call us the conspiracy theorists, right? Scientifically, you're supposed to question everything and try and essentially disprove your theories. Try every way to disprove your theory so that you can make sure that your theory is correct. So what we're doing now is anti-science. And now we have doctors, we're shocked about this. Well, you're shocked about it because nobody let anybody talk about the fact that this might be possible. Moving on. We look at Kathy Hochul, and now we saw that. I was telling you in November or October, I said that they're going to use these emergency powers. They're going to use the term public health emergency to give them an excuse to just start passing laws without going through the process, right? The Assembly, the Senate, up to the governor's desk, or on the national level, the House, the Senate, executive branch, judicial review, whatever you want to talk about. But we do these executive orders and these emergency powers, which are supposed to be temporary. They're as temporary as 15 days to slow the spread. They're temporarily indefinite. Temporarily indefinite. I think I'm going to use that in a tweet later. But they're temporarily indefinite. Only 2 weeks, only this amount of time. We're almost on 3 years. Okay? So they're temporarily indefinite, these emergency powers. Now we have Kathy Hochul. We have an article here, and I'll attach it in the show notes, loudmajorityus.com. Head over there, sign up for the show notes. You get the email every time we're done streaming, and you'll get it, right? Here's an article, Daily Wire, by Ben Ziesloft. Whew. Sorry, buddy. Ben Ziesloft, Zeisloft. Our governor, wonderful, beautiful, fantastic Kathy Hochul. Andrew Cuomo in a dress, okay? Cuomo in a dress. You talk about it, you look at Hochul, and you saw Andrew Cuomo touchy-feely, okay? He was very touchy. He was a grabber, okay? And they said that about me. And yet 11 or 12, whatever it was, allegations, Andrew Cuomo said, the intern, I want to play poker, but when you lose, you have to remove an article of your... No. So touchy-feely Andrew Cuomo's gone. Now we have Cuomo in a dress, Kathy Hochul, although she's worse than him, so now we got to call him Kathy in a suit. Oh, gosh. I'm out of coffee. It's okay. So Cuomo in a dress, Kathy Hochul, anyway. Cuomo in a dress is now looking into using emergency powers and is declaring another public health emergency. And I saw somebody in the chat mention it. Do you guys know what it is? What Kathy Hochul just declared a public health emergency, folks? I'm not kidding. Somebody else in the chat before had said it. So we're looking. Let me see. I'm going to give the chat a chance to catch up there. Do you guys know what Kathy Hochul just what Kathy Hochul just declared a public health emergency? I want to get the chat involved here. Public health involved. No, it wasn't the snow. It was, you're not going to believe it, but you will believe it. Here it is, Daily Wire headline. And I'm going to check the chat one more time. Let's see. Yes, Trisha Mahoney and Jessica Sarlo and Jennifer Roman have gotten it. They've gotten it in the chat. They're always very informed and in tune with what's going on. Jessica and Trish and Jen. Daily Wire, New York Governor Kathy Hochul declares racism a public health emergency. Well, there's your way right there to bring critical race theory and just throw it into the legal system in your state. Isn't that great? You don't believe me? We're going to read this article. Governor Kathy Hochul declared racism a public health emergency in her state. For far too long, communities of color in New York have been held back by systemic racism and inequitable treatment, Hochul said in a press release after signing multiple pieces of legislation. I'm proud to sign legislation that addresses this crisis head on, addressing racism, expanding equity. Remember, equity and inequality. Different things, but they're playing that. They're doing the dipsy-do flipperoo, as Bongino says. They're doing the flipperooski. They had equality. They're taking equality. Look at the guy, and they're just, whoop. Now it's equity. Okay? Don't let that happen. Equity is a lot different than equality. Equity is the guaranteed outcome, which you can't do. Equality is guaranteed opportunity, which exists here. I am proud to sign legislation that addresses this crisis head-on, addressing racism, expanding equity, and improving access for all. Among the legislation, here's one of these pieces here, declares racism a public health crisis and establishes a working group. There you go. New government program. More taxpayer money. You know they're not working for free. It establishes a working group to promote racial equity throughout the state of New York. Equity. Equity. Interesting. Several lawmakers celebrated the news. Framing racism as a public health issue compels organizations and governmental agencies to address the crisis in the systemic ways. So they want to systemically fix systemic racism. Weird. They're doing that by prioritizing everybody over white people for COVID meds. That's how they're systemically addressing systemic racism. You see that? Isn't that nice? It's really something. For decades, racial inequalities have caused significant mental, physical, and financial hardships for people of color. These inequities have impacted how they live, the resources they have access to, and more importantly, their quality of health care. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Hello? Don't forget about me. Bernie, I'm in Vermont. I'm in my fourth house. Oh, jeez. Bernie's coming out to play today. I haven't had Bernie come out to play in a while. You know, Kathy Hochul, she's the one who came out and said that if you're not taking the vaccine, you're not listening to God, and you have to be her vaccine apostle. You know, this woman, she wears the vax necklace. So this woman is a complete nightmare. And I think declaring racism a public health emergency, this is just her trying to score some points with the left. You know, and I thought maybe they'd scored enough points. She might have scored enough points because Letitia James had dropped out. I guess not, because Kathy Hochul now is apparently declaring racism a public health emergency. And this is where we need, when we take back Albany, and I think nationally too, when we take back the House, we take back the Senate, we need to do something about emergency powers. There needs to be some check, some level of oversight over this emergency power stuff, or we need to get rid of them altogether. Because temporary emergency powers that become temporarily indefinite, it's a complete tyranny. It's a complete power grab, and it's a complete hoax to believe that it's a temporary thing. Unless your governor is Ron DeSantis, who apparently AOC endorsed. She didn't really endorse him, but my tweet made it into a couple of articles about that, Daily Mail and Fox News, where AOC was spotted in Florida with her white male boyfriend, although she doesn't like white men. Spotted in Florida despite record COVID cases. I think New York just popped 74,000 positive cases. How is that possible? Well, I know there's people that get tested every day, but how is that possible, 75,000 cases, if we have vaccines and therapeutics and mandates and all those lockdowns and things like that? How are those possible? New York City was accounting for 30% of all the new cases in the entire country. Do you know that for a point in time? 30% were coming from a city with vaccine mandates and passports. How? How did 900 students in Cornell get sick? Hochul now says all SUNY and CUNY schools have to do the booster. People are going to get tired of this. I think when we line up for our shots, Every time a new booster comes out, we're lined up outside these places like the new iPhone is coming. You know what I'm talking about? How are we? We've never done this before. And there is no way, I'm sorry, there is no way to tell me that if you get sick after getting vaxxed and you don't die, that the vaccine saved your life. Because the virus has a 99.98% survival rate. And it had that survival rate before the vaccine. Okay? It's nice and slow for some of the liberals that I know are going to be watching now or later. We had a 99.98% survival rate before the vaccine. After the no, not after the vaccine. Before. So there's no way to tell me that the vaccine saved your life. Maybe it did. And if you want it, go ahead and get it. But don't guilt other people into getting it by saying, if you don't get it, you're going to die. No, you're not. You have a very good chance of surviving. Maybe you have a better chance after getting the vaccine. Maybe. But we don't know. It's only been out for a year. Okay. So we have, excuse me, just getting over that nonsense sinus infection too. Another article. There it is. See, I talked about the vaccine. Now I'm coughing. That's crazy. AOC tries to dunk on DeSantis over vacation. Excuse me. Doesn't go well. Hot Air. Excuse me. HotAir.com. Article. Be in the show notes. LoudMajorityUS.com. Check it out. Here's one of those fun stories that dropped onto our laps just as everyone was getting ready for their New Year's Eve celebrations. On Thursday, while New York City was in the midst of the largest surge in Omicron and other COVID cases seen to date, National Review revealed that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, you know, she's a part of the squad, okay, wasn't hanging around in her home district in Queens. Instead, AOC was photographed in Miami Beach, sitting maskless, with her boyfriend and sipping champagne at a sidewalk cafe. A pundit already pointed out the differences between AOC's situation and a previous flap over Ted Cruz's vacation agenda. In any event, AOC's trip to the Sunshine State prompted the office of Governor Ron DeSantis to have a little fun by welcoming her to Florida on Twitter and saying that that they hoped she was enjoying some of the freedom offered by DeSantis's policies. AOC then goes ahead here and criticizes Ron DeSantis for being quote unquote missing. She tweeted, "I'd also be happy to share some notes from Governor Kathy Hochul's work in New York." Well, Alex, maybe if you didn't flee New York to go to Ron DeSantis, where it's free, okay, where there's freedom, where you can live your life, you want to talk about Hochul? How could you talk about Hochul's policies when you fled New York, Alex? You don't even know what the hell's going on here. 75,000 cases. What are you doing? You're sitting down there with your white boyfriend, although you hate white people. You're sitting down there with your white boyfriend down in Florida sipping champagne in the sun while New York is coughing their lungs out. You're not even here. And you want to tell me that Governor Hochul has had success? Okay. So DeSantis is... I'd also be happy to share some notes from Governor Kathy Hochul's work in New York since he seems to be in need of tips. Alex, you are in his state. I can't take it. How stupid is this woman? I mean, there's woke and then there's this. You're offering the guy tips on handling coronavirus when the state that you ran from is experiencing daily record numbers worse than when the pandemic began, worse than when we had no vaccine, worse than when we didn't know if this thing was deadly or as deadly as we thought. 74,000 cases in a day, and she's in Florida with her boyfriend sipping champagne in the sun and telling, oh, you know what? I brought tips down for Ron DeSantis. And the media, oh, wow, Alex is so brave. Oh, she's so brave. Now she criticizes Ron DeSantis. Hasn't Governor DeSantis been inexplicably missing for like 2 weeks? If he's around, I'd be happy to say hello. She's the one who vacated her district, criticizing someone else for not being around. Also not knowing that Ron DeSantis was spending time with his wife, who was undergoing treatment for breast cancer. Okay? Let me just make this claim right now. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is easily one of the most insensitive and disgusting and stupid people walking the face of the earth. You criticize Ron DeSantis for not being around. You're doing it from his state, tweeting from a coffee shop with your yuppie liberal white boyfriend wearing sandals in Florida, sipping champagne in the Florida sun. You're tweeting at Ron DeSantis, criticizing him from his own state. You left your state because it's a cluster, right? You left your state because it's a mess. You're tweeting him, telling him he's not around, when it's really you that's not around in your district. And the only reason DeSantis wasn't around is because Ron DeSantis was with his wife, who was undergoing cancer treatments, recovering from breast cancer. AOC, you are, quite frankly, okay, one of the worst people, I think, in the history of people. What do you think about it? And how stupid do you have to be? This is dumber than when she said, yes, when I was in the Girl Scouts, we recreated the NASA Challenger mission. I was like, excuse me. The Challenger exploded after liftoff and killed all the 7 astronauts that were in the space shuttle. Oh yeah, we recreated that. Does she not know? Jeez, I can't. Sometimes I can't with her. I really can't. It drives me crazy. You remember when she said surge at the border? It's not a surge because the people aren't insurgents. Alex. Oh my God, we got to do something. Tina Ford needs to win that race. I mean, we got to do something about this lady. So she's let's wrap this up one more time. She's criticizing Ron DeSantis for not being around. When she's sitting in Florida, in Ron DeSantis' state. So she's the one who's not around. She's not in Queens. She's not in D.C. She's in Florida, sipping champagne with her latte liberal black sandals white boyfriend, okay? Telling him we have tips. I'm going to give you tips from Kathy Hochul's work in New York, when New York is the state that she ran from and is reporting daily record cases and is and is responsible for 30% of new cases every day in the country. But she's going to give Ron DeSantis tips, and then she's going to criticize the guy for being with his wife while she's recovering from breast cancer. Got it. What? I mean, you cannot make this up at all. And yet here we are. And somehow this woman is a representative in Congress. Really makes you scratch your head, right? Really makes you scratch your head. Okay. 10 minutes to go. What else we got here? What else do we have here? You want to talk about, let's talk about Texas. We said we were going to talk about the Texas election audit. So this was interesting. JustTheNews.com. This will be in the show notes. So let me organize this real quick. AOC, we have Hochul, we have Texas. So Texas election audit identifies nearly 12,000 foreigners suspected of registering to vote. Suspected non-citizen voters have been referred to counties for investigation, and more than 2,000 have already been removed from rolls, Texas Secretary of State John Scott reports. An audit of Texas voter rolls, just voter rolls, identified nearly 12,000 non-citizens suspected of illegally registering to vote, and nearly 600 cases in which ballots may have been cast in the name of a dead resident or by a voter who may also voted in another state. This is happening in Texas. You know, if it's happening in a red state like Texas, it's happening in blue states all over the place, and this is important. This should get people upset, okay? Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, this should get you upset. All right? Think about this for just a second. You're a Democrat, right? And you go ahead and you vote for a Democratic candidate. If you find out that there are people who are not supposed to be voting, right, that they're not allowed to vote by law, that are voting, you find out that people now that are not allowed to vote constitutionally, not supposed to be voting, have the same influence as you do over an election. That should upset everybody, Republicans and Democrats alike, right? So if you're voting in an election and there are other people who are voting in elections that are not supposed to be voting in that election, they hold now the same influence as you do. Are you happy about that? Now, Democrats are happy about that because the people who are voting, the dead vote always seems to go one direction. The illegal vote always seems to go one direction. So, of course, the Democrats don't want to talk about that. They don't want to remedy. They don't want to fix this. They don't want to address this situation because addressing this situation literally takes votes out of their hands. But for any reasonable American who enjoys democracy, and we don't live in a democracy, we live in a democratic republic, a constitutional republic. Okay? But when you look at it, if you enjoy participating in elections, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, a reasonable Democrat, right? If you enjoy taking part in the process, you should not be happy that people who aren't supposed to vote are voting because those people now have the same influence. They carry the same weight as you, the legal voter, the rightful voter, right? So we look at Texas now, and if it's happening in Texas, it's happening everywhere. Texas Secretary of State John Scott released the findings of the first phase of his audit on the last day of 2021, announcing 224,585 deceased residents were removed from state voter rolls as a result of the review. So they took 224,585 names off of the rolls, okay? Statewide, a total of 11,737 potential non-U.S. citizens were identified as being registered to cast ballots. 11,000. That's enough in some states to tip the election. With the lion's share located in the counties around Texas's two largest cities of Houston and Dallas. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Blue areas. It is illegal for foreigners to vote in Texas elections. You can read the full report here. Last month, now, if it's illegal for foreigners to vote in Texas elections, how did 11,735 people wind up registering to vote? Where we find issues, we're going to address issues. John Scott says, what we are trying to do to make sure there is a little more confidence in the system in election integrity. I think this is one of the hopes of the audit, is to show folks it's very safe, it's secure, your vote does count when you cast it, and where we find issues, we're going to address those issues. All right, so if you're talking about, while several counties took action promptly to work their potential non-U.S. citizen matches, others did not begin investigating or send notices of examination until mid to late November of 2021. As a result, the 30-day window in which the registrant could provide proof of U.S. citizenship fell after the federally required NVRA moratorium on voter registration cancellations had begun. This means that many potential non-U.S. citizens identified through the agreed-upon process would have until at least May 25th of 2022 to respond to a notice of examination before their voter registration is canceled. So far, 2,327 of the 11,737 suspected non-citizen registrations have been canceled. Okay, so 2,000 of the 11,000, 2,300 of the 11.7 thousand have been canceled already, more than half in Dallas alone. And the Secretary of State's office is now investigating whether those canceled voters illegally cast ballots in prior elections, Scott's report said. The audit also found several other small irregularities, including 509 potential cross-state duplicate votes were cast in the November 2020 general election, meaning voters may have cast a ballot in both Texas and another state. 67, that means that person had twice the influence that you had in an election. 67 potential votes were cast in November 2020 in the name of deceased people and are under investigation. That's an issue. A sampling of 4 counties found 3 had discrepancies between the votes tallied by the machines and those later checked by hand. Those discrepancies are due to be further investigated in the second phase of the audit. So that's all coming from Texas. Texas has done that audit, and they found some stuff. I mean, they didn't find anything groundbreaking, but 11,000 illegal names on the rolls is a big deal. I can only imagine how much that is here. Right? So that's a big problem over there in Texas. See anything else here? Oh, one more bit of good news. We'll throw this in there. Because it influences our state. It influences New York. This is from the New York Post. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand would lose to AOC in a primary, ex-staffer says. She's the incredibly sinking senator. Gillibrand has become so invisible, according to one of her ex-staffers and other observers, she would easily lose a primary challenge to lefty Representative AOC if she ran for Senate. There are any number of state lawmakers, local officials, and members of the delegation, including AOC, who could mount a very, very credible challenge and quite likely beat her, the ex-staffer said, adding that this is that his once vigorous former boss now seemed bored in the Senate. It is missing in action statewide. The headline of this article is that, or the idea is that Kirsten Gillibrand apparently is bored in the Senate and is just done. All right, longtime city Democratic strategist Hank Scheinkoff agreed AOC can beat Kirsten Gillibrand. AOC will raise the money. She can beat her because Kirsten Gillibrand is the invisible senator. She has done very little to cement that incumbency, and the electorate is angry, and she has done nothing to address the issues that matter, which are COVID, crime, and job loss in New York State. I'll tell you right now, though, if Kirsten Gillibrand decides she's not running and AOC steps into that void, I want to see Elise Stefanik in New York challenge AOC. I think that would be amazing. I think if we saw Elise Stefanik become one of our senators in 2024, that would be incredible. Let's see what happens, right? Because AOC can resign her seat in Congress and run for Senate, and then we could beat her and knock her out. That would be fun. That would be a great time. 3 minutes to go till 8 o'clock, guys. Thank you so much for jumping in. Once again, tune into the first half of the show for our action plan. Tune into the second half for some stories and some funny stuff, right? January 5th protest Wednesday in Albany. Be safe, everybody. Please be safe. Remember, surround yourself with the people that you know and trust. Don't go there and expect, not that everybody over there that you don't know is a dangerous person, but I say surround yourself. Stay close with the people you know and trust, okay? And be smart, make smart decisions, and be peaceful. We don't have a problem with all this, but be peaceful. You know that there may be agitators, there may be people who are going to try and make us look bad at this event because it's so close to January 6th and it's happening at a state capitol building, right? So let's be smart. Tuesday, January 5th. Wednesday, January 5th in Albany. Be smart. Have a great time. Make a difference. Make a change. I'll be rooting you on. I'll be streaming this morning. I'll be streaming Wednesday morning while you guys are driving up. So tune into the stream while you're driving up because we'll be wishing you well. Okay, in Albany. That's on Wednesday the 5th. We also would love it if you guys are excited about what I mentioned in the first half of the show about walk-in districts in upstate New York. You're from areas upstate. I know Tatiana, who's been watching the entire stream, she's over in Carmel, but I saw other people talking about hitting different towns up there and cities and counties up there. Send us an email, loudmajority, liloudmajority@gmail.com. Send us an email. We'll start talking. We're not going to do anything just yet. Also, we're looking at doing another rally at some point in time down here in Long Island over the next month or so before we go to CPAC, just to get everybody out again, see everybody again, and celebrate a little bit. All right, and get ready to kick off 2022 and all that good stuff. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. LoudMajorityUS.com. Once again, LoudMajorityUS.com. Head over to LoudMajorityUS.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. Sign up for the newsletter. Head over to the shop, pick up the sweetest Let's Go Brandon shirt in the nation, and wear it proudly. They're doing that in upstate New York after coming back from Otsego County. We got a bunch of folks up there wearing their Brandon shirts out there and having a great time. So go right ahead and do that too, loudmajorityus.com. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, I see a nice chunk of people watching on YouTube. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button, and please share this everywhere. Share it everywhere. Your Facebook groups. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Parler. Share it on Getter. Share it on Gab. Wherever you're at, please, please, please share it. And also, if you are interested in listening to this as a podcast, we are at We Will Not Comply on every podcasting platform. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find it. We Will Not Comply. In the face of government overreach, tyranny, and ridiculous mandates that clearly don't work. We say these 4 words over and over and over again until the people in power get it, or they get the hell out of our way. They get the hell out of our way, right? What are those 4 words, chat? Love you guys so much. What are those 4 words? There they go. We got them scrolling. I see YouTube's got it. I see a We Will Not Comply with a big, beautiful X. Okay, I see it. Those 4 words are that if we do not consent, we will not comply. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. Stop complying. Stop it. Stop complying. And stay loud.